trust the Trudeau government to do the right thing. So again, for those people, how serious, it's one thing to say it at a podium, it's another thing when you're looking at them straight in the face or talking to the Prime Minister. How serious are you in drawing that line in the sand? Again, the message for Canada and for Albertans.
I've drawn the line in the sand. I put forward our emissions reduction and energy development plan for a reason, because I'm sending the message to Ottawa that we are going to chart our own pathway to meet our national commitment of being carbon neutral by 2050, and they've got to come into alignment with us. And I think the fact that Minister Wilkinson and Minister LeBlanc are flying out today to meet me is a good sign. I think that they're taking it seriously. And we'll see if we can come up with a working group about how we're going to achieve that. And that's what I'm hoping we can do. I'm very cautious, though, too, because I remember, along with everybody else, when the tinkling of the champagne glasses, thinking that when Peter Lougheed thought he'd had a deal with Pierre Trudeau, and it turned out to be something very, very different than he thought he was agreeing to, and then he spent the rest of his time fighting to make sure that we got our resources back. So I'm not going to be naive about it either. We're going to be industry-led on this. We're going to make sure that we're always in alignment with what industry says is achievable, what industry is investing in, and it is our job to be an advocate for ourselves and industry about how we're going to reach that target in a way that draws investment in rather than pushes it away. So I'm going to be very cautious in the discussions as well. I think we have reason to have a lack of trust, frankly, with the way the federal government has treated us over the last decade, canceling projects that have been approved, putting in legislation designed to prevent us from building pipelines and exporting our product, coming through with regulations and legislation without consultation, interfering in our jurisdiction time and time again. It's why I drew a line in the sand, and I'm glad to see that they're prepared to have a conversation with us about it.
I'm not allowed a third question, but what is the line in the sand? Just very quickly, one sentence. What is that line in the sand?
There is no way we will agree to shutting down our oil and natural gas industry or phasing out our oil and natural gas work. Oil and natural gas by 2030, that's 7 years from now. We've also told them that is simply not achievable. So part of my discussion with them this afternoon is going to be that we put forward our emissions reduction and energy development plan. We are going to take the lead on developing an emissions reduction plan that works for Alberta while maintaining our economic growth. And we need to bring them into alignment with what it is that we want to do and get them back to their original commitment of carbon neutrality by 2050. We think that that's achievable. Especially with so many industries that are putting forward their own plans. Pathways has a 2050 target. Air Products has a 2050 target. Dow Chemical has a 2050 target. So I think part of this dialogue is just figuring out how we can align on a 2050 goal and then work together on making sure that the pace of that, of achieving that goal is realistic. And that's what our conversation is going to be about.
Thank you. And now we'll go to the next question at the mic.
Oh, Mr. Bell.
Good day. I hope they'll still have the chili if you end up selling your place. I am a fan of the chili, that is. I've talked to a lot of people in other parts of Canada who might not think, they see something like you're going to draw a line in the sand, which you indicated on Wednesday. You talk about the Sovereignty Act or about other measures, and then you put out a statement saying certain things will be unacceptable and not negotiable and other things won't be. But what message do you have to people in Alberta and elsewhere in Canada, including the federal Liberal government, to people who say it's just rhetoric, it's just Alberta? If I may play devil's advocate, it's Alberta. They always complain. They complained before, they'll complain again, they're complaining now. They're not serious. They're just shadow boxing, political posturing, however you want to call it. What do you say to people in the rest of Canada and in Alberta about the charge that sounds good on paper, but you might not be willing to actually act if something does not, if that kumbaya doesn't happen?
I'll tell you what's different this time. I mean, in the past, whether it was with Pierre Trudeau or any of a successive number of federal politicians, the fight was always how much additional wealth can be extracted from Alberta to benefit Ottawa. That was always what the fight was before. We've never faced